You've been told your whole life, follow your dreams, chase your passions, never give up until you make it. It sounds romantic, right? Like a Hollywood movie where the underdog trains, struggles, overcomes, and finally wins everything. But here's the truth nobody wants to tell you: achieving your dreams isn't the end of your struggles. In fact, sometimes it's the beginning of an even bigger set of problems. And if you're not ready for that truth, if you're not prepared to face the dark side of your own dreams, you're going to destroy yourself when you finally reach them. The hidden lie behind dreams. When you dream about success, about becoming rich, famous, admired, loved, respected, or whatever it is you crave, you imagine only the light, the applause, the recognition, the freedom, the sense of accomplishment. But what you don't imagine is the weight that comes with it, the weight of expectations, the weight of pressure, the weight of realizing that the thing you worked for your entire life doesn't actually make you as happy as you thought it would. Nobody dreams about sleepless nights worrying about whether they'll lose everything. Nobody dreams about people hating them the moment they succeed. Nobody dreams about waking up one day with everything they wanted and realizing they still feel empty inside. And yet, that's the reality. Every dream looks glamorous from the outside. We see the highlight reels, the victory moments, the applause, the lifestyle, the freedom, and the status that come with it. What we rarely see, and what almost no one talks about, is the hidden cost that comes with pursuing and achieving that dream. The truth is that success never comes free. Every achievement, no matter how big or small, carries a price tag that most people underestimate. And it's not the kind of price you can pay with money. It's the sacrifices you make along the way, the time you give up, the relationships that strain or collapse under the weight of your ambition, the mental toll of constant pressure, the health issues that sneak up after years of overworking yourself, the peace of mind that slowly erodes as the stakes get higher and higher. This is the part of success that people don't like to admit because it ruins the fantasy. Think about it. The person who wants to be rich doesn't just get to enjoy piles of money falling into their lap. They pay for it with sleepless nights, long stretches of grinding when nobody is watching, moments of self-doubt, and sometimes years of financial struggle before things finally click. They might gain wealth, but along the way, they lose time with their family, or they damage their health because their stress levels are constantly through the roof. When they finally have the wealth, they realize that the price was steep, and sometimes they even ask themselves if it was worth it. People who dream of fame discover a cost just as heavy. They lose their privacy, they become a target for judgment and criticism. They live under a microscope where every action is analyzed, praised, or torn apart. One wrong move can cancel everything they've built, and the constant pressure to maintain their image can suffocate them. On the surface, fame looks like adoration. In reality, it is often isolation. Even those who dream of being the best in their field, whether it's sports, music, business, or any competitive arena, discover that the pursuit demands everything. It demands early mornings, late nights, countless sacrifices, and an endless comparison to others. To be the best means sacrificing balance, which often leaves people feeling like they've given up the simple joys of life just to stand on a podium for a fleeting moment. The cost is invisible to the outside world. Spectators cheer when the medals are awarded, but they never see the moments of loneliness, the broken friendships, the burnout, the internal battles with anxiety or depression. They never see the breakdowns in hotel rooms or the aching body that refuses to heal. The price of chasing your dream is not just external, it's also internal. You carry the weight of expectations, both from yourself and from others. The higher you climb, the more you feel the pressure to maintain your place, to never slip, to never show weakness. That pressure eats away at your peace. And when you finally achieve your dream, the weight doesn't magically disappear. It often grows heavier, because now you have something to lose, something that can be taken from you. The dream that once felt like freedom can start to feel like a cage. This hidden cost is why so many people who achieve their dreams end up disillusioned. They imagined only the light, but forgot that the light always casts a shadow. And when they stand in the spotlight, they realize that the shadow has been following them all along. The sacrifices they made, the health they neglected, the peace they gave up, the people they lost, cannot be bought back. Every dream has its glory, but every dream has its price, and the higher the dream, the heavier the cost. One of the greatest illusions people carry in life is the belief that success is a final destination, a finish line where all of their struggles, doubts, and pains will suddenly vanish. They tell themselves that once they achieve a certain goal, make a certain amount of money, get the recognition they crave, or finally reach that dream position, everything will fall into place and they will finally be happy. This illusion is what drives most people forward, but it is also what leaves many of them broken when they discover the truth. The truth is that there is no such thing as arrival. There is no permanent state of fulfillment waiting on the other side of your biggest goals. What exists instead is a moving finish line, a constant shifting of what feels important, a new hunger that awakens the moment you satisfy the old one. When you are in the grind, chasing after something, life feels meaningful because you are striving toward it. You imagine the moment when you finally hold that dream in your hands. You picture the freedom, the relief, the sense of validation that will come. But the strange thing about the human mind is that the moment you achieve what once felt impossible, it suddenly feels ordinary. It becomes your new normal. The sense of magic and wonder you imagined isn't there in the same way. Instead, a new voice whispers inside your head, okay, you did this. Now what's next? This cycle never ends. It happens to the athlete who wins a championship only to wake up the next day, realizing the season will start again, and the victory won't sustain him forever. It happens to the entrepreneur who sells a company for millions and feels empty after the celebration is over. It happens to the artist who finally creates the work that gets recognition, then feels paralyzed because they don't know how to top it. The illusion of arrival is so seductive because it gives us hope. It convinces us that one day the struggle will be over, that one day life will feel complete. But in reality, human beings are wired to always look ahead. The brain is built for survival, and survival means scanning for what's next, not sitting still in satisfaction. That's why no matter how much you achieve, your brain finds a way to shift the goalpost. You once dreamed of making $10,000 a month. Then when you got it, you wanted 20. You once dreamed of having 100 followers. Then when you got it, you wanted 10,000. You once dreamed of just getting your foot in the door. Then when you got it, you wanted to be the one running the whole building. There is no point where you say, I have arrived and I need nothing else. Even those who try to cling to that state find it slipping through their fingers because time, growth, and ambition keep pushing them forward. This is why many successful people end up disillusioned. They expected to feel a permanent sense of fulfillment once they achieved their dream, but what they find instead is another mountain behind the one they just climbed. It doesn't matter how high you go, the horizon will always stretch further. This is both the beauty and the curse of being human. The beauty is that we can always grow, evolve, and create something greater. The curse is that if we believe the finish line will give us everlasting satisfaction, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment. The real tragedy is not that the goal shifts, but that most people don't realize it will. They spend years chasing, only to reach the top and discover that it feels almost exactly like the bottom, except now with different responsibilities, different expectations, and a different kind of emptiness. People often imagine that success will transform them into someone entirely different, someone more confident, happier, and more at peace with themselves. They believe that money, fame, recognition, or achievement will fix the cracks they've been hiding, heal the insecurities they've carried, and silence the doubts that have haunted them. But the truth is harsher than that. Success does not change you. It amplifies you. It magnifies everything you already are, for better or worse. If you were insecure before you succeeded, you will still be insecure after, except now those insecurities will be placed under a brighter spotlight. If you were lonely before people knew your name, you will still be lonely when they all know it, except now it will be harder to trust who genuinely cares. If you were unhappy in your own skin before achieving your dream, that unhappiness will still live inside you afterward, only louder because you'll realize the dream didn't fix it. This is why so many people feel shocked when they finally get what they thought they wanted. They believe that achieving the dream would erase the emptiness inside them, yet they wake up the next morning with the same voice in their head, the same feelings of not being enough, the same unresolved wounds. Success didn't heal them, it simply handed them more responsibility, more attention, and more pressure. And with more attention comes more scrutiny. Whatever flaws you've been carrying quietly will now be visible to the world. The person who relied on external validation before success will find themselves addicted to it after, because now the crowd is watching, clapping, or criticizing, and they feel compelled to perform for that approval. The person who struggled with self-worth before money will spend endlessly after money, hoping to buy their way into peace of mind. The person who didn't feel loved before recognition will be crushed to discover that the recognition feels hollow without genuine connection. Success is like a mirror. It reflects back at you everything you've been trying to avoid. It strips away excuses. When you're struggling, it's easy to say, I'd be happier if I had more money, more recognition, more success. But when you get those things and you still feel broken, you're forced to confront the reality that the problem was never outside of you. It was always inside. This is why people who rise quickly often fall just as quickly. They weren't prepared for how much their inner struggles would grow louder when exposed by success. Some drown in addictions to escape that truth. Others sabotage themselves to return to the chase because the chase at least gave them the illusion of meaning. The world often tells us that success changes lives, and in some ways it does. It changes circumstances, opportunities, and the way people treat you, but it does not rewrite the script in your head. It does not magically make you someone else. Instead, it magnifies your patterns, your habits, and your character. If you are disciplined before success, you'll be even more disciplined after. If you are reckless before success, your recklessness will only grow with the resources now at your disposal. Success gives you more of what you already are, and that's why so many people are caught off guard when they finally achieve it. They thought they were running toward transformation, when in reality they were running toward a louder version of themselves. When someone spends years chasing a dream, their entire sense of identity becomes wrapped around that pursuit. They don't just see themselves as a person who wants success. They see themselves as the one climbing, striving, grinding, always reaching for the next rung of the ladder. Their self-worth becomes deeply tied to the chase itself, to the idea that they are the one who never stops working toward something greater. But when the moment finally comes and the dream is achieved, that identity suddenly collapses. The question arises, if I am no longer the one chasing, then who am I? The loss of that chase can feel like the loss of a self. This is why many people who finally achieve what they've been chasing for years are met not with joy, but with confusion and emptiness. The dream gave them direction, structure, and purpose. Every day they knew what they were striving for. Even in moments of struggle, the struggle itself gave them meaning because it was in service of something larger. Without that pursuit, they feel hollow, drifting, unsure of where to place their energy or what story to tell themselves about who they are. An athlete who has spent decades training wakes up the day after retirement with no stadium to perform in, no teammates to push alongside, no competition to define themselves against. An entrepreneur who builds a company and then sells it suddenly faces mornings where there are no calls to answer, no fires to put out, no mission to obsess over. An artist who dreamed of recognition and finally gets it finds themselves staring at a blank page or canvas, wondering what comes next now that the validation box has been ticked. This identity crisis is darker than most people imagine because it doesn't just bring confusion. It often brings a profound sense of loss. The loss is not of the dream itself, but of the self that existed while chasing it. People realize they don't know how to exist outside of striving. Their entire sense of meaning was bound up in becoming, and once they arrive, they discover there is no map for simply being. This can lead to depression, anxiety, or destructive behaviors because when the structure of identity collapses, the human mind scrambles to find something to cling to. Sometimes it clings to unhealthy addictions, sometimes to new obsessions, and sometimes to nostalgia for the days when life felt purposeful simply because there was something to fight for. What makes this even harder is that society glamorizes the achievement but rarely prepares anyone for the aftermath. The story is always about the climb, the underdog becoming victorious, the dream finally realized. But once the credits roll, the person who lived that story is left to face themselves in silence, often without a clear sense of who they are anymore. The world claps for their achievement but offers no guidance for their identity collapse. And because of that silence, many people believe they're alone in feeling lost after success, when in reality it is one of the most common experiences. The irony is that what they wanted all along was not just the dream, but the identity of being the dreamer. They were in love with the chase, not just the destination, and when the chase is gone, they are left with a void. That void becomes a test, one that determines whether they can rebuild an identity not based on striving, but on something deeper and more lasting. Until they do, they will remain caught in the dark side of achieving their dreams, where the applause fades but the question of who they really are lingers endlessly. Validation is one of the most intoxicating experiences a human being can feel. When people clap for you, when they admire your work, when they tell you that you are special, it lights up the brain like a drug. That feeling of being noticed, of being recognized, of being applauded has the power to make you feel alive in a way that nothing else can. But like any drug, the effect doesn't last forever, and once you taste it, you want more. At first, the small doses feel incredible. A single compliment, a little bit of attention, one sign of approval can keep you motivated for weeks. Then over time, those same doses stop giving the same high. What once thrilled you becomes ordinary, and you find yourself casing louder applause, bigger stages, larger numbers, higher recognition, just to feel what you once felt with so little. This is the dangerous cycle that success creates. The very moment you achieve something that earns you validation, you open the door to dependence. Because now you know what it feels like to be seen and celebrated, and your mind starts to crave it as proof that you matter. The danger is that you begin to measure your worth by the noise around you instead of the strength within you. Every new achievement feels less like a victory and more like pressure to maintain the level of attention you've received. If the applause is quieter than last time, you panic. If the recognition is smaller than before, you feel like you're failing. What once inspired you now enslaves you. This addiction to validation is one of the reasons many successful people are deeply unhappy. Outsiders assume that the praise must feel incredible, but they don't see how fragile it becomes over time. They don't see the nights of doubt when the attention slows down or the exhaustion from constantly trying to outperform the last success. They don't see the way people start bending their lives, their choices, even their morals just to keep the applause coming. Fame and recognition amplify this problem to an extreme. When the spotlight shines on you, you learn quickly that it can also shift away from you, and the fear of being forgotten or ignored can eat you alive. The worst part of this cycle is that validation from others can never truly satisfy. It feels good, but it is shallow because it doesn't touch the deeper parts of who you are. It cannot heal old wounds, it cannot erase insecurity, it cannot replace genuine love or meaning. It simply provides a temporary distraction from the void, like sugar that gives you a burst of energy and then leaves you crashing. The more you rely on it, the emptier you feel when it fades, and the harder you work to chase it again. It becomes a loop you can't escape, a treadmill where you run faster and faster, but never actually arrive anywhere. The tragedy is that the more successful you become, the louder this treadmill hums. People believe that validation is a reward, but in truth, it can become a prison. Because when your sense of value depends on the applause of others, you lose the ability to hear your own voice. You stop creating, working, or striving from a place of inner strength, and you start doing it for the noise, for the recognition, for the drug. And when the noise eventually fades, as it always does, you are left staring at yourself, wondering why you still don't feel whole even though everyone else says you should. Most people are taught to dream in terms of outcomes. They imagine themselves at the finish line, holding the trophy, cashing the check, receiving the applause, living the life they always pictured. The dream is painted as a final picture, a completed story where everything lines up perfectly and satisfaction never leaves. But the flaw in this way of dreaming is that it puts all the focus on the result and almost none on the process. When all of your energy is directed toward the outcome, you forget that most of your life will be spent in the process itself. The years of effort, the daily grind, the small wins and setbacks, these moments make up 99% of the journey, and the outcome is only a fraction. If you don't learn to love that 99%, then even when you achieve the dream, it won't feel worth it. Shifting how you dream means reframing success as growth rather than arrival. Instead of obsessing over what you will get at the end, you focus on who you become along the way. The outcome matters, but it is not the point. The point is to develop resilience, to stretch your capacity, to discover strength you didn't know you had. When your dream becomes about the process, the finish line no longer controls your happiness. You are free to enjoy the climb, to find meaning in the struggles, to take pride in the work itself, rather than waiting for the reward. This shift also protects you from the emptiness that so many feel when they finally achieve what they thought would fix them. If you see the dream only as a goal to reach, then once you get there, you are left asking, now what? But if the dream is simply a tool for growth, then it continues to serve its purpose long after the outcome has been achieved. This mindset also frees you from the trap of comparison. When the dream is about the outcome, you constantly measure yourself against others. Who is further ahead, who achieved more, who got there faster. That comparison poisons motivation because no matter how much you achieve, someone will always be higher. But when the dream is about the process, the only person you measure yourself against is who you were yesterday. You stop caring about competing with the world and start caring about competing with yourself. The dream is no longer about proving yourself, but about discovering yourself. The shift from outcome to process also changes your relationship with failure. When success is defined only by the outcome, failure feels like death. It feels like wasted years, wasted effort, wasted energy. But when success is about the process, failure becomes information, feedback, part of the growth. It is no longer proof that you are not enough. It is proof that you are becoming more. Every mistake, every setback, every misstep feeds into the bigger purpose of growth. Instead of running from failure, you embrace it because you understand it is part of the dream itself. Loving the process doesn't mean you abandon goals or stop caring about results. It means you recognize that the results are fleeting, but the growth remains. Trophies gather dust, applause fades, money comes and goes, but the person you become through the pursuit stays with you. That is the real reward. The dream should never be your god, something you sacrifice your entire self to in hopes that it will finally complete you. The dream should be your tool, a direction to walk in that helps you grow into the person you were meant to be. When you shift the way you dream, you stop chasing the illusion that one outcome will change everything, and you start building a life where every step, every struggle, every small victory is already the reward.